Lewis, the images of the arrest of George Floyd that ultimately led to his death were appalling, of course, but sadly other incidents involving both men and women have happened in America in a similar way. What is it about this particular death that has gathered so much momentum and motivated you to have such a passionate response to it?
Well, I think it's I think it's quite painful for a lot of people to have seen. Basically, obviously, that one particularly has been the clearest video proof of shown of the attacks that had been on black people in the States. And there's over 1,000 killings by the police in the States every year, and 99% of those every single year go without conviction. And I think being that we had that video that everyone could see in plain sight, I think, just speaking on my personal experience, it brought up a lot of anger, a lot of pain from experiences as I had growing up. And I got to bring those up to, for example, my parents who were there with me through those difficult times. And I was like, I think for me, just feeling like I could not stay silent during this period of time. And I think many people around the world, and I got to go and visit go on the march in London, the Black Lives Matter protests, and it was really amazing to see people from different walks of life, all colours, supporting this. And it's really not this is not a battle, a fight against other races. This is asking for equality above the board.
Certainly, for me, lockdown meant I probably had more time to reflect on what was going on in the world as well. So it had a more dramatic effect. Do you think that was anything to do with it?
I mean, with the protests, I'm sure people not being at work, it's definitely giving people more time to realize the sheer magnitude of the situation, and go out and fight for what Martin Luther King was fighting for this 60 years ago, and it's been fought for hundreds of years before that. And it's crazy to think still 60 years after Martin gave his life to fight for our freedom, it's still happening around the world. And what's crazy is people think that it's only in the States, the killing from police officers, yes. But in terms of systemic racism, it is all over the place. It's still across all of Europe. And I've experienced it and see it every year. And I've got friends that also experience the same thing. So I think this is a time for reflection. This is a time for us it's never too late to educate yourself. It's never too late to learn. And so this is a time where we do need to educate ourselves. We need to encourage our friends to take a moment and try to understand why we're in this position, and how we can do better to be, because we are all the same.
You've talked about racism you experienced in your junior days karting in the UK and in Europe. We saw the totally unacceptable behaviour of the fans in the grandstands, 2007, Barcelona. I suspect you've got other stories to tell as well on that. Have you ever experienced racism in the inner sanctum of Formula One, do you think?
Apart from with the fans?
Apart from the fans, I mean in the paddock, in Formula One itself.
I have. I won't talk about which that experience was, but I have, particularly in the earlier phases of my career here. But I would say since over the last years, it's not something that I particularly see. What I do see though is very much like when I was at school. I'd go to school as 1,500 kids, and I was one of maybe 5 or 6 black kids, and you feel quite alone. And the whole thing the feeling that you're led to not feel like you're particularly fit into society. And when you walk into the paddock of Formula One, there are there might be 1 or 2 other people of color in this whole paddock and in all the teams. And I've known this is nothing new for me. This has been the case the way it has been since I got to Formula One, since I started karting. It's been something I've been talking to Toto about, really trying to improve diversity in our team. And it's great that he's been so open to listening and not kind of fighting back, because a lot of people do kind of take offense to it, or feel like you're being targeted. But it's not about that. It's about working together, moving forwards, being understanding, and trying to improve.
On social media, you appeared to call out the other drivers on the grid to be more proactive to support this, but actually reading it again, maybe it was a broader, wider call to the F1 community?
Yeah, it wasn't aimed at anybody. It wasn't aimed at the drivers specifically. It was aimed at everyone, not only in my sport, but in across. I've got friends that are in other businesses, friends that are in other sports who are big leaders within those sports with massive platforms saying nothing. I've got friends in the music industry that are saying nothing. And we need every single person's voice. It doesn't matter how big a following or how small a following you still have a voice. And the important thing is that we all use our voices together, because collectively we can make a huge impact together. And I just think that we all have a responsibility with our platforms, instead of posting things and bring awareness to adverts. We should take a moment also, it's not just taking a moment out of your day to also do what everyone else is doing by posting Blackout Tuesday just so you can say you also participated. It's actually doing that, but then, because black people don't have the time to be able to take a moment. We've got to stay on this, because otherwise it will never change. And so that's why we need people's help.
Motorsport lives by the stopwatch, and the stopwatch is blind. It doesn't know gender or ethnicity. Of course, that's just talking about the drivers, and it's a much bigger sport than that. But we completely lack diversity, there's no doubt about it. That can only be then because people don't have the opportunity to come into motor racing, or they don't have a desire to come into our sport, or they don't feel they'd be welcome or comfortable here. But how do you see it?
Well, it's definitely the lack of opportunity. It's not the same. Again, around the world, the opportunity for black people is not the same as it is for white people, and it's the same also for Asians. So I think it definitely is opportunity. It's the education system is not great. If you look at the opportunities, and that's why I've commissioned this, the Hamilton Commission. It's because you can't fix what you don't know. So everyone has an opinion of why there is no diversity here, but I really wanted to get to the root of what the real cause is and try to understand it, and it all starts from education. So it's trying to understand and collate as much information as I can, so that I can make sure that when we put money towards a cause, it's not just doing it because because some people just do it to be a part of it. If you look at sustainability, it's come up the list of priorities in all these companies over the time as people start to make more and more noise about it, as where it used to just be a bullet point on their list of things to do, but now it's more of a priority, and it's the same thing with this. So we're really just I'm trying to make sure that I get as much information so I can really know exactly where the issue is and how we can fix it.
How will this commission work? It's in partnership with the Royal Academy of Engineering. How will you measure success? What are the goals? How's it going to be funded?
Well, the thing is, we don't know what the result's going to be, so we can't pretend to know what those are going to be. So it's really making sure that you put the right commission board together. So it's an elite group of intellectual individuals, a lot of them on the ground in working directly in black communities. It's high-end politicians who can really put the results we find into effect and come up with really, once we've got all this information, they'll be able to come up with some idea or some solutions of how we can implement these changes, whether it's changing the curriculum, whether it's, for example, when you look at the teams and they say, well, there's not a lot of, when we're going to hire people, there just aren't a lot of black people or minorities going for the jobs. So why is that? Why are there are black kids that go to university, but a lot of them don't make it through. A lot of them back out. Why is that? So we're going to do a very, very broad exercise where we're going to be doing lots of interviews collating a lot of the different commissions that are out there and bringing it into one hub. And my goal is in 10 years' time to have a different outlook here, for it to be diverse, and for it to be open, inclusive and equal.
Is this your mission? Is this your passion for the future, maybe after you finish driving?
Well, the thing is, people might think that, just so you know, this is not a knee reaction from this Black Lives Movement thing. This is already something that I had already engaged from December. The idea came in December, and we've been on it since then. It just so happens that the Black Lives Movement thing came around kind of in perfect time. But I think over this time during COVID, there have been, whilst it's been terrible in so many ways, in terms of not being at work, having time to focus. I during my time off between this, whilst training, I've been focusing on the Hamilton Commission. I've been focusing on the work that I'm doing with Fight for Peace in London, the global goals. I've been trying to figure out how I can implement better setups within my own team, and then talking a lot with the large organizations. So I've been on the phone a lot with a lot of the partners. Formula One is very much a part of some of the shift you're going to see this weekend, pushing my team to have the car in the black livery, which we'll have this weekend. So I've been super busy, and I think definitely discovering your purpose over time. I definitely think this is definitely going to be a part of my legacy.
Are you planning to take a knee on the grid at some point? And if you do, will you expect everybody else on the grid, or certainly the other drivers, to support you, to have solidarity with that?
Well, firstly, I don't expect anything from anybody. I think I've not spoken to the other drivers. During this time, the question has been asked to me, and honestly, it's not been something that's been on the top of my mind. I've not come here this weekend with a determined mind frame to go and kneel at the start before the race. So I really don't know. I think you'll see on Sunday whether I decide to do that and whether I feel it's appropriate. But I hope that we are all united one way or another. I'm sure the drivers will speak before the race, so we are kind of aligned. As I said earlier on, calling out a large group of people, it's all the teams, it's all the drivers, it's the media, it's everywhere throughout Formula One, through catering, through marketing, through engineering, through every different aspect. There's so many opportunities out there, and we need to make it more open and more accessible.